Part 3 of the Military Journals of Two Private Soldiers, 1758-1775. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by FNH. The Military Journals of Two Private Soldiers, 1758-1775, by Abraham Tomlinson. Part 3. Military Journal for 1758. April 5th, 1758. I, Lemuel Lyon, of Woodstock, enlisted under Captain David Holmes, of Woodstock, in New England, for this present Canada expedition. I received of Captain Holmes £2. May 30th. Received £3, 16 shillings. June 2nd. We arrived at Colonel Mason's at 12 o'clock, and marched from there to Lannard Abbott's. Landlord. The proprietor of an inn or tavern was universally called landlord. The title is still very prevalent, and Sergeant Stone treated us there. Then we marched to Mansfield, to Deacon Eldridge, about 4 o'clock. Then we marched to Bolton, to Lannard Trills, and we gave 7d a night for horse-keeping. Wednesday the 7th. We had carts to press. To take carts for the military service under martial law, any private property may be used for the public good. A just government always pays a fair price for the same. Then we marched on from there to Lannard Strengs in Hertford, and from there to Lannard Geddes, and had raw pork for dinner. Then we marched to Lannard Cruise, and the chief lodges there, probably General Lyman, who was the commander-in-chief of the Connecticut forces at that time. My mess lodged at a private house, one Daniel Catlin's. Thursday, 8th. Marched off, and arrived at Lannard Gessel's, and there we went to breakfast, and then we marched from there to our stores in Litchfield, County, Connecticut, to Squire Shelding's, and then to Lannard Buell's, and lodged there, and our captain was sent for, to a man in another company that had fits. Friday the 9th. Then marched from there, and we had new teams pressed there, and we arrived at Lannard Hollowbutts in Goshen, and from there to Widow Leggett's in Cornwall, and from there to Cole's in Canaan, and lodged there. Saturday 10th. Marched to Lawrence's, and from thence to Lannard Bushes in Sheffield, 7 mile, and went to dinner. Thence marched and arrived at one Gaunt Burgess's, and lodged there, and our ensign went to prayer with us. Sunday 11th. Marched into the Paternoon lands, Livingston's Manor in Columbia County. The estates of Livingston, Van Rensselaer, and others, who received grants of land from the government on certain conditions, in order to encourage immigration and agriculture, were called patroon lands, and the proprietors were entitled to patroons, or patrons. To Lannard Lovejoy's, and went to dinner and had a hard shower. Then marched into Kinderhook, to one Hare Carnes, the stone house, and lodged there, and from thence to Kinderhook town, to one Bush's, and slept there. Monday the 12th, at Kinderhook. Tuesday 13th. We marched and arrived at the halfway house in Albany and baited, and then into Greenbush, now East Albany, on the west side of the Hudson River, by sundown, and lodged there in Ransley's barn. Wednesday the 14th. Still at Albany, and there I first shifted my clothes and washed them. Then we had 6 rounds of powder and ball, and had orders from Colonel Whiting to go to Schenectady. This day Asel Carpenter came to Albany. Thursday 15th. We went over the river early to receive our rations in provision and in money, and we marched 2 miles and stopped and refreshed ourselves. There half an hour, and Lieutenant Smith came up, and we received our billeting money. Billeting money, that is, money to pay for lodgings at a private house. When soldiers are quartered at private houses, it is said that such ones are billeted at such a house. Friday 16th. We had prayers in our company at 3 o'clock, and then all marched, but at 14 they stayed here to guard Lieutenant Smith and the money, and yesterday Mr. Holmes sot of our home, and I give 5d for carrying my letter. We stayed here till 5 o'clock this afternoon, and we heard nothing from Lieutenant Smith, and we had no provisions, so we marched for Schenectady, and we got in at sundown well, and there was a larum that night. Alarum or alarm. Saturday 17th. Still at Skinnercatter, Schenectady, and we moved into our barracks, and Barnabas Evans was taken poor with a working in the body. Ben Denny was taken very poor. Sunday 18th. I was first called upon guard with 15 more. My turn came first at 11 o'clock. This afternoon, 3 o'clock, Lieutenant Smith came up with our abolition money. Monday 19th. Still at Skinnercatter, and there was a regiment of province men, provincial troops or American soldiers. The English troops were called regulars, come up to Skinnercatter, and this night 25 of our men went over the river west 1 mile to guard wagon horses. This day a short training, 1 regiment. Tuesday 20th. There marched of 300 of the Bay forces, Massachusetts Bay troops. The Massachusetts colony was called Massachusetts Bay until after the War of Independence, for Fort Edward. Fort Edward was situated upon the east bank of the Hudson, about 50 miles north of Albany. The fort was built by General Lyman of Connecticut in 1755, while that officer was encamped there with about 6,000 troops awaiting the arrival of General William Johnson, the commander-in-chief of the expedition against the French at Ticonderoga and Crown Point. A portion of the site of the fort is now, 1854, accompanied by the flourishing village of Fort Edward. Some of the embankments are yet visible near the river. It was near this fort that Jane McCree was killed and scalped in 1777. And I received my billeting in full, £1 8s. Wednesday 21st. Still here, and we were embodied for prayers in the morning, and then trained a little. Corporal Carpenter was taken poor. Thursday 22nd. Had orders to march to the Half Moon, near Waterford, on the west side of the Hudson River, 13 miles north from Albany, and Captain Lenness's company, too, at 7 o'clock. We marched and arrived at Niskayuna, a short distance from Waterford, and remarkable as a settlement of shaking Quakers, and lodged there at Leonard Abraham Grote's. Friday 23rd. Marched in the rain, and very greasy travelling it was, and we arrived at Taberth, and from thence to the place called Loudon's Ferry, on the Mohawk, about 5 miles above Coer's Falls. It was the chief crossing place for troops on their way north from Albany. There the right wing of the American army under Arnold was encamped, while General Schuyler was casting up the entrenchments at Coer's Falls a few weeks before the Saratoga battles in 1777, to Lanard Fugdoors, and from thence to Half Moon, and lodged there. Saturday 24th. I received a letter from John at the Half Moon, and from thence we marched and arrived at Stillwater. Stillwater is on the west bank of the Hudson in Saratoga County, 24 miles north from Albany. The Battle of Bemis Heights was fought there in 1777, and is sometimes known as the Battle of Stillwater. Opposite the mouth of the Hoosick River, at Stillwater, was a stockade called Fort Winslow, and lodged there, and Barnabas Evans was poor. End of Part 3. Recording by FNH. Please visit www.bookranger.co.uk.